gymnasts also bring so much to our event, so it's going to be always great to also have them there. But anyway, in bodybuilding, as you can see, that we're making a real big effort to make bodybuilding more about performance on the stage, more about posing than just the huge body. And that's why we had yesterday a special category for best posing, because that's getting into that direction to let the bodybuilders know that eventually there will be more points given for posing than rather just having this huge body, because I feel very strongly, and a lot of others in the federation, that the whole idea of the male beauty is we have been deviating over the last few years from that concept. And now the guys started looking more and more like powerlifters when they stand up there with those thick necks and huge bodies, and that's really not the idea. We have to put a bit more grace, a bit more symmetry into the whole thing, and more performance. You see so many of those great bodybuilders now, they hit like 10 poses and then they run out of breath. And they're hanging up there and they're breathing heavy, their stomach is sticking out, and it's the kind of a thing that we don't want to do. We want to see guys up there that can smile and that can pose for an hour straight without ever stopping and still having a great smile there and still not shake their bodies. Now you have guys that they have hit the pose, go up like this, and then the bicep pose is gone because they can't even hold a pose long enough. Or if they hold a pose for more than 10 seconds, then they start shaking and the whole body starts going into this kind of a convulsion, almost like you want to run over and hold them up so they don't faint. So those are the kind of things we want to get away from, and so we are letting the athletes know now there will be more and more emphasis put on posing and on performance rather than just the huge body. Because what do you do with the huge body if you cannot perform? That's the key thing, is to put the two together, actually the three. Perfect symmetry, and also the posing, and also then the musculature of the body. This is the way it used to be, but then I think with the various different medications and various different other supplements and training methods, the whole thing, I think, went out of control. And but it happens in every sport, where you start going off a little bit, and then you try to bring it back again. And I think that's what we're trying to do now. Now, obviously, as I always do when I come out here, I try not to hold a lecture for 45 minutes about training, because there's many questions that you have that you want to have answered. I just want to say that the results yesterday were great. I think that with Jay Cutler winning again, I think it was the third time in a row, and next year he was to shoot for the fourth time. I think that was a terrific result. I think the most perfect body out of the current judging system, with Chris Coulier coming second and Dexter Jackson third. I think that the King Kamali had the best posing routine, and I'm glad that he got the trophy for best posing. I was also very happy that we had so many other bodybuilding champions show up, like Frank Zane, Lou Ferrigno, Reg Park, Bill Burrow, and there was many others that were out there in the audience. It's nice to have them all come together here at this event, and that there's always a big family, and then we hang out at the hotel afterwards, and it's always a nice experience also for me. As I said yesterday to you, for me it's great to come here, even though so many letters came to me this last week and 2 weeks ago from sponsors and from athletes and from spectators, would I come here or not? Because now Governor Norris, as I said yesterday, I thank the world of this sport, and I'm always having such a great time coming to Columbus and being part of this and working with you Norris throughout the whole year with the promotion of it, and the way we set up the competition, what's we include, and then I come throughout the year. I come in here to Ohio in order to work with him and to work with the various different committees. So I'm really looking forward to doing that for many, many more years, because I think this is the greatest place you have those kind of championships. Plus we have the great luxury of having some 400-some volunteers working for us throughout the year, and they love doing what they're doing. So we really enjoy those championships here. I think that the thing that I wanted to say about training itself is, training itself changes all the time, as you can see. I mean, you can see at the builds that the people have have different bodies now than they had 20 years ago, and 20 years ago they had different bodies than they had 40 years ago. So it's just because the training changes and food supplements change and all that, and the emphasis also changes. But there's some things that stay basic, you know, and I always was, when I was training in my days, was a very big believer in the basics, because you can't get around from doing squats, you can't get away from doing bench press, you can't get away from doing chin-ups and sit-ups and leg raises. And there's certain exercises, no matter what you do, if you avoid those exercises, if you stay away from it, it will backfire on you. And you will not get the strong body that you want. Because, I mean, like, how do you develop a lower back without doing bend-over rowing? And without doing your full squats? That's the only way you really can do it. So, I mean, so there's certain things that you have to do in order to really get the Herculean physique, and not just this kind of an artificially looking physique where you have just the muscles here, muscles there. The whole thing doesn't really connect. So that's the key thing, is to stay with this kind of basic exercises. And I think that I would like to let it open up to the question. I'd like to open it up to the question and answer now, so that we can go right into the kind of things that are your concerns. And so you can ask questions about the training, and about nutrition, and about anything else that you would ask. But let's give you the training and nutrition stuff. But anyway, yes, let's have right here is a question. Yes, go ahead. Well, how much carbohydrates should a person eat? Are you trying to hand the mic out? Very good, you're fast. How much? You know, it really, first of all, you have to have a balance between the carbohydrates and the calories and the protein. And then it's very different from person to person. There's some people that need to load up on carbohydrates because they need a lot for their training. There's other people that need to load up more with the calories, and then some people don't need that at all because they're already overweight and they want to let the energy come from their own body fat that they have, excess fat. So if you want to reduce weight of body fat, then it shouldn't take much at all. You should get the energy from the excessive body fat that you have.
What is more important to use fat? Extra.
Where does this question come from? Raise your hand.
Okay. Extra time in the gym lifting weights or more cardiovascular? What would be the easier way to lose body fat?
Well, body fat you lose through effort. So you can get the tremendous effort going through just lifting, let's say, 3 reps and doing 20 sets with a huge weight. That is a tremendous amount of effort and can burn a lot of calories. You can also put the effort in there by doing, let's say, a 1-hour life cycle ride or bicycle ride. That's also effort. So it's really, it depends on what the exercise is and how intense you do it. The more intense you do something, the faster you will burn calories and the more calories you can burn. But I think that you can count on, in an average workout, to burn around 2,000 calories. There's no 2 ways about it. If you really work intensely and work 2 hours, go from set to set to set. Sure, welcome. Yes. The rest here in the middle. Go ahead, speak up.
Every year, at least 3 bodybuilders run their pro card that are under 185 pounds. And I was wondering what your thoughts were on having 2 or 3 weight classes in the pros, so that a smaller bodybuilder stand a chance of, after earning a pro card, we could actually do something in the IFBB.
Well, I think that there's 2 thoughts to that, and we have gone through this because in my days when we were competing, we had Franco Colombo, and we had Danny Padilla, and we had guys like that were in the category of around 180 or lower. And there were many years where they had their own category, and where they were separated from the heavyweights or from the tall men. Sometimes it was like short, medium, and tall, and other times it was weight categories. Later on it was weight categories. So then there was arguments about it, well, now we have a winner like Franco Colombo, and we have a winner like Ed Corney or Danny Padilla, and then we have a winner like Lou Ferrigno and Arnold. But now, who is really the best? So that became the big question. And so people were not really happy with having 2 weight categories or 3 categories. They wanted to unite it and bring it together to one and find out who is really the best of all of them. And that's why I think we came down with 1 weight category again. But it could be one of those things that opens up again and a debate, and maybe we get back to the various different weight categories. But I think in the end, the people want to know who is the winner. So we don't have 5 guys running around and saying, I won the Arnold's Classic, or 5 guys running around saying, I won the Mr. Olympia. Who then won the Mr. Olympia, really? That's the problem. Yes, down here.
I just want to say that no matter what you do, even now that you're governor of California, you never, ever forget your roots. And that's bodybuilding. And I find that very admirable in you, and I thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, Governor. Have you ever had a nagging injury that you had to deal with your training, and what was the best way to
Where's the question coming from? Okay, right up here. Okay, got it. Say again.
Have you ever had a nagging injury that you had to deal with, and what was the best way that you found to overcome that?
Well, I was, I had injuries, yes. I think that what you have to do is you just have to figure out as quickly as possible what the reason of the injury is and how can you eliminate the problem. Because so many people have an injury and then they sit on it and they try to work around it, but then it gets worse and worse and worse. Some injuries need to be treated right away, if it is medication, or if it is through surgery, or so physical therapy. All of those kind of things can help. I mean, I've had shoulder injury, I had shoulder surgery last year, and I think because of having the surgery and doing the physical fitness, the therapy throughout the year, it helped me, and then I could rebuild it again. But I think there's no reason to sit there and wait until something happens, because it's not going to happen. When you have an injury, there's a reason for it. It could be a torn ligament, it could, whatever it is, you have to have it fixed, or you have to have therapy in order to fix it. So that is the key thing, is to deal with it right away and not to make it get worse. Yes.
Good morning, Arnold. I just wanted to ask you, I read in the magazine that due to your heart operation, you cut out squats for the Terminator movie. How did that affect your leg growth?
I don't know exactly where you read that. I mean, it has nothing to do with that. I haven't done squats for a while because I do get a lot of leg exercises from my bicycling and all the other exercises that I do. But it has nothing to do with heart surgery. I think the important thing with the heart surgery was it was not to use heavy weights, because it's the forcing continuously that is bad for the valve, for the heart valve. And so when you have had a surgery, the doctor says, look, don't irritate it by doing again the 500-pound squat or the 500-pound bench press. Not that they don't do that anymore, because that was in the old days, but nevertheless, they don't want you to train that heavy, so they want you to do lighter weights, and they want you to do 20 reps rather than using the heavy weights and using 5 reps. So that's the basic principle, not to do the heavy lifting. But it has nothing to do with squats or whatever exercise it is. Okay? Yes, way back there is the question. I think it has nothing to do with being a lady or a man. I think that you can start weight training as soon as you're like 13, 14 years old. I think you're old enough to lift. I remember I started lifting when I was a little bit of lifting when I was 14, but it was more with my own body weight. It was doing push-ups and doing chin-ups and leg raises and all kinds of crunching exercises and all those things, dips using chairs. All of those exercises we did with the body weight. And with 15, I started lifting with actual weights, with dumbbells, barbells, bench press, weightlifting, Olympic lifting, and all those exercises. So I think it's the same for men and women. But you have to just be careful that your body is developed enough in order to really start doing the exercises. There's some kids that are with the age of 15 not developed enough, and when you see that, I would still wait a little bit of time. And then the other kids that are developed, fully with the age of 13 already, where you feel like they can start training. But it's usually around 14 and 15 where it is good to start exercising with weights. Yes, right on here.
First of all, I would like to say you're my hero and always will be.
Thank you.
The way you're shaking now. I have a question. How can I prevent dizziness after heavy squats? Because that's my favorite exercise. But I always get dizzy after that. There's nothing I can do.
Well, I'm sure there's something you can do. First, you should check out maybe there's something wrong with your blood pressure, or with something with your circulation, or with your heart, because there should be no reason that you get dizzy. I mean, I remember that when we did squats, sometimes we got dizzy because there was a lack of oxygen. And we had an oxygen tank there many times in the gym. Between sets, we would inhale oxygen so we could go from one exercise to the next. We did these giant sets. We would do first a set of leg extension, then we would do a set of leg curls, and right after that we would do a set of squats. So by the time we did the fourth or fifth rep, we were totally out of breath. So what we did was we had an oxygen tank there, and we took some oxygen, a few breaths, not too many because otherwise you get dizzy from that. And so that really helped us not to get dizzy, but only if you just do regular squats and you do it to exhaustion, you shouldn't just get dizzy and wipe out. I don't know, you faint when you fall over, what's going on? Do you faint when you get dizzy, or?
No, I never fainted, but it's this feeling that
you almost pass out.
yeah.
Well,
But I keep on doing that. That's my
it's natural to be a little dizzy or something when you go and exhaust yourself into the forced reps and go all out, but I mean, you shouldn't really be dizzy after every
because I
set.
have a good cardio.
Have you checked your cardiovascular system? Have you checked your heart? Have you gone to the doctor?
No, never.
Why don't you do that? Just check it out. Maybe there may be something wrong. Okay?
Thank you, Arnold.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Anyone over here? Yes.
First of all, I have a lot of respect for you. You've accomplished a lot in your life. My husband and I brought our daughter this year. We've been here for 4 years. And a couple of years ago, you said that you were going to do more to give the women more. And I feel that they work just as hard as men, if not harder. And I feel they get ripped off. What are you personally doing to give them women more, maybe give them a Hummer too?
Give him a Hummer too, yeah. Hummer too.
I'm not going to be overly excited about getting a Hummer. But as you know, with everything, it's we like to have women get to the level that they get also more money as the men get, and they get kind of paid for their work that they put in it. But in general, in sports and in anything else in life, it always has to do with what sells. And rightfully or wrongfully, but that's just the way it is. So when you see, for instance, male bodybuilding selling huge events, and when you see women's bodybuilding not selling so well, I think it has a lot to do with that already. That's why there's not that much money available for women than for men. It's the same thing when you go to any other sporting event or the movies. I mean, like when we do movies, I many times get paid a huge salary. The other actors in the movie that are working just as hard as I do, and they're getting paid 10% of that I'm getting paid. And they may ask themselves, why am I getting the same, why am I getting 10% of what Arnold is getting when I'm doing the same stunts, the same hard work, working day and night on a movie for 6 months? So it isn't always based on work. It is sometimes based on, how much money can you bring to the event. But we, as I said years ago, and as I say today, we are making every effort within the federation to build and develop bodybuilding for women and get it a lot of attention in the magazines and get a lot of write-ups so that we can build the sport so there's more people attracted to it and more people coming to watch the show, and therefore we can increase the cash prices for women. So that's really the idea. But the important thing is that we build it and we pay as much attention to women bodybuilding as we do to men's bodybuilding. Okay? Thank you. Good morning.
Not to be a Schwarzenegger Republican. How does it make you feel to have overwhelming support that you got last Tuesday in California?
I feel very good having had the support last Tuesday. And I think that what the ladies talked about was our referendum, our initiative, Proposition 57 and 58, which is one was the economic recovery bond, which is the $15 billion bond, which was the highest bond that was ever approved by the people in the history of America, I think. And the second one was the balanced budget initiative. And both of them were very important, so those who don't read up on all this stuff, both of them were very important in order to get our fiscal house in California in order, because I've inherited when I took over the office a $22 billion debt. And the only way we can solve that is by consolidating the debt, by refinancing it for lower rate. And so that was the economic recovery bond. And then the second one was we wanted to make sure to have people approve an initiative and make it law that the politicians in Sacramento can never again spend more money than the state takes in, because what they've done the last few years is consistently spend more money than the state takes in, and that's why we ended up now with a $22 billion debt that we have to slowly get rid of. So when they introduced that idea, we were like 20 points behind in the polls, and a lot of the media wrote it off actually and said, this would never succeed, this would never happen, and it will prove that now its popularity is not going to be there, and then the legislators will have more power, and all of those kind of things we have read, and there was big talk about that. But what happened was that I went on a very intensive campaign for a month and a half, and to try to educate the people, to let them know what this is, why we needed the bond, why we needed the balanced budget initiative. And also I brought the Democrats and the Republicans together, because I feel like there's no such thing as a Republican issue, a Democratic issue. It's a California issue. It's both of the parties had to come together. Because of that, I think we were successful, and we won with a 20-point lead, which shocked everybody that we got such a huge lead. So I think that if you're honest with the people and let them know what needs to be done in order to fix the problems of the state, and you go out and campaign for it and believe in it, I think a lot of things can be changed. Sure. Yes.
Hi, Arnold. Jeff Riley. Nice to see you again. I always enjoy it. I have a question. Just wanted to know your opinion. I get frustrated with politics. I think a lot of people in the country are frustrated that the politicians seem to be focused primarily on their own self-promotion rather than the benefit of the country. There's even politicians that speak poorly of our country. I just wondered what you think about that situation.
Well, I think it is of bad taste that if you go overseas or wherever you are as a public figure, like an entertainer or politician or businessman, makes a difference what position you're in, and you go and knock this country. I think that we should try to do everything possible not to do that, because it just benefits somebody else. It definitely doesn't benefit this country if you do that. So I don't know what the point of it is. There were entertainers that, for instance, went over there throughout while we were getting through this Iraq conflict. We're going on to the film festivals in Berlin and other places in Cannes, and spoke very badly about the United States. Now you may disagree with the policies, but don't go to France. Don't go to Berlin and try to speak bad about America and about our president and about our politicians. I think that this will serve our country as much as it's the opposite. So I'm totally against it, and I think it's a big mistake for them to do that. I think that if somebody is dissatisfied with anything that is going on in this country, I always advise them, don't talk about it. Just go out and do something about it. Go and campaign and try to get involved in politics, try to get involved in public service, try to get involved in whatever there is your problem with, whatever you're complaining about. Because it doesn't make any sense to just sit in front of the television set and say, oh, look at this crook here, he's lying. Well, can you go out? If you think that the politicians should clean up their act, then first of all, you create a kind of an organization that can become part part of an organization that really goes out and campaigns against that politician comes next election. There's many people, there's women's groups that are out there campaigning against politicians or for politicians. There's many different groups that are endorsing or not endorsing. So I always say your voice can be heard. You can flex your muscles at the polls rather than just sitting at home and complaining about it. Or you run yourself, like I did. I saw for 5 years in California, I saw our state going down. And I was sitting there complaining and despising the things that were going on. And eventually I just said, you know something? I think it's time to jump in there. I think it's time to just forget about my career and not worry about, how I can climb to be a bigger star, make another movie. I'm going to go and just take the risk. I'm going to dive in there and I'm going to campaign and tell them what I want to see California to be done. And the kind of things that can be done and what is really our future of the state rather than just trying to fix it with band-aids and all those problems. And it worked. It was successful. But I think it's better always to be a person of action than a person of dialogue, because you can do all the dialogue you want, go out there and do something about it. People talk about education is bad. And I said, what do you do about it? Are you working in an after-school program? Are you educating kids? Are you a tutor somewhere in a school? Are you going around inspiring kids to stay away from drugs and to stay in school and to do homework and all this? I mean, these are the questions. I mean, what do you do? If you all have tremendous amount of power, this is why I said what I said yesterday, that we have such talent within bodybuilding, that people are so knowledgeable about nutrition and exercise, and it's so inspirational the way they talk, the way they train people in the gym. Why not go out and do something like this for people that need that help but don't have the money? So there's many things that we all can do in order to make changes. Look at my mother-in-law, Eunice Kennedy Shriver. She started in 1968 the Special Olympics. There was a time when people said, that experts said to her, it will never happen, don't do it. You can't take people with mental disabilities out of those institutions. You cannot introduce them into sports. They will hurt themselves, they will kill themselves. They're not capable of doing this. Don't do it. She continued on, started with 200 athletes, and built the organization. Now the organization Special Olympics is in 160-some countries. It's in China. They have now in China alone 400,000 members of Special Olympics. I was over there. I remember promoting a Special Olympics over there 3 years ago. And it's extraordinary the kind of work we were in South Africa 2 years ago. All over the world, millions and millions of people now that have mental disabilities or that are mentally challenged are now belonging to an organization where they can participate in sports and in fitness activities and also get the representation so they get good health care and dental care and all those kind of other things. So that's really one person saying, I want to do something about it, and she created this huge movement. So that's the kind of power we have. And I always want to encourage people, don't just sit there, there's great sexy white shirt.
Hi Arnold, how are you?
Thank you.
For the career-oriented person or the person who simply just works a lot, how do you recommend that we approach our training? The nutrition is obvious, but how do you recommend that we approach our training for the person who works a lot and still wants to live a healthy lifestyle?
Well, I think the most important thing is that for you, always exercising should be number one. The number one priority. It's like sleeping. It's in eating. There's certain things that you need to do every day in order to survive. And so therefore you have to then make adjustments when it comes to scheduling. That if you have a job, the very strenuous job, then you just maybe have to get up earlier or go to bed earlier. Like I have right now, my work is, as you can imagine, with the kind of responsibility that I have, is like from early morning to late at night. But I still get in my hour workout, half hour in the morning with the cardiovascular training, and I still get in my time in the evening. I can go if I'm in Sacramento, I go to the Capital Athletic Club, and I go to the public gym, I go there, work out with weights for half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour if I have the hour. So my workout continued. My workout also continued throughout the entire campaign. I was campaigning from morning to night, 7 days a week when I was campaigning to be the governor. And but every single day I worked out. 7 days a week I worked out. It made no difference to me what happened there. I always found time, because I always say that the day's 24 hours. So if you work for 15 hours, let's say you work hard for 15 hours, but there's still 9 hours left. I visited the Pope. That was through my family's, we all went down the Rome, it was 83, I think it was. And just that morning when we visited him, I read this whole story about him exercising for an hour and a half every day. And then, before he ever goes out and has a meeting in the morning, he already has read newspapers in 6 different languages. So I mean, imagine now that before you go to work in the morning, you already have worked out and you've read papers, newspapers in 6 different languages. That's how he starts the day. Then he starts counting the hours of the day when he starts going to work. So that's impressive. So even a guy like the Pope will find time to work out and to keep in shape. And I remember when I used to visit President Bush in the White House, when I was the chairman of the President's Council of Fitness. I would go over there at 6 in the morning, and he would be working out. He just gets up early, he gets up at 5:30, and then he works up from 6 to 7, and then he goes and has his intelligence briefings and all that, and moves on throughout the day. But he always found time for his workouts. Then when we walk in Camp Davis, David, the same thing, working out and doing sports pretty much all day long. So people have time, you just have to make the time and make it a priority rather than saying, I never have the time to work out. I think that's bogus. Okay.
Hi, Arnold, how you doing? With the recent ban on ephedrine, what do you think of, there's talk of also more supplement regulations, possibly the FDA getting involved, and what's your opinion on that as far as maybe having to go to the doctor to see something like that?
Well, I have always campaigned against the FDA getting involved in food supplements because I think that the food supplements ought to just have good labeling, and I think there should be a certain standard that should be checked all the time, so there is no bad stuff out there. But I think they don't need the Food and Drug Administration to regulate it, because if they do, first of all, the costs of the food supplements will go up. And second of all, I've very rarely seen the government do anything that was effective. Yes, you.
I'm a health and PE teacher, and I was wondering, I'm a health and phys ed teacher, and I work with middle school kids, and I was wondering, they're going to ask me what you said. How do I motivate them to be fit and to lead a healthy lifestyle when there's so much TV, video game stuff that is pulling them away from health?
Well, I think that it is a big challenge, and I have 4 children myself, so I know the way it is, because we have a rule in our house that throughout the week there's no TV. You know, so none of our kids are allowed to turn on the TV. They have to get their kind of activities after they're through with their homework and with their reading and all this, then they can go out and play, because I want them to be physical. I want them to play tennis, I want them to run around, I want them to play football, basketball, all those kind of things, to be physical, to be active, because they need exercise. Children need exercise. If we take that away by just having them sit in front of the TV set, which is a natural tendency that children have, or in front of a computer and play games in the computer, then of course you have the problem that we have right now as an epidemic in this country, that we have this huge amount of children that are overweight and obese. Obesity is the #1 problem amongst our kids now, and I told them that more than 10 years ago, when I was the chairman of the President's Council of Fitness, I said the biggest mistake that you make is by looking at the budget problems in education and then start taking the money away from physical education and from arts classes. And so what has happened in the last 10 years was it finally is showing up as a tremendous impact, because now the kids don't do as much arts, music, painting, drawing, all the various different things, and also they don't get any physical education, because because the physical education teachers have been laid off. There's very, very few around. It's a rarity actually to have one, because now the math teacher is in elementary schools teaching physical education. So I think that was a big mistake, and I think we have to bring all of that back. We have to make our children exercise every day, just like they do in Japan or in Korea or in those countries. Yes, right here.
Thank you for your time.
Sure.
How can we get involved with your kids? Sorry about my accent. How do you get involved with your kid programs at your school? I'm from Canada. This program is available in Canada?
Well, there are, I'm sure, but we don't have, our organization is in 15 different cities in the United States, but we are not really working in Canada. But you can start your own program in Canada. You can look at your local school and see if they have an after-school program. And then if they don't, then you can go